Khamzat Chimaev versus Strickland just took place, and I'm going to be going through the entire card, giving you my recapped analysis of each fight, starting with the early prelims and ending with the main event, baby. Let's go. I'm going to save it. Let's start off with the early prelim opener of Jose Ochoa against Clayton Carpenter. Listen, I went with Jose Ochoa, and I picked him to win by knockout, and he didn't get the knockout, but boy, did he beat the ever-living shit out of Clayton Carpenter. He beat that boy like he owed him money. He controlled the entire fight. There's not much to say. You know, Clayton Carpenter threw out a bunch of takedown attempts. I think there was a total of 7 takedown attempts, landed one. Ochoa was quick to get back up to his feet, and man, on the feet, Ochoa was beating the fucking brakes out of Clayton Carpenter. He was coming in and out of range. He was popping in with that jab. He was going to his leg. He was landing that overhand right. He was landing hooks to the face, hooks to the body, dropping his guard. He poured it on Clayton Carpenter, and I can't lie. I was surprised that he didn't get the finish, because every single moment of this fight, I was like, oh my God, he's going to finish him. He's beating the living shit out of this guy. He's on the ropes and so forth. But, you know, respect to Carpenter, he was able to hang in there. But, you know, Ochoa is the real deal. I've said he's the real deal. He's just been dealt with a bad set of cards in his first 2 fights. You know, Asu Ambalayev, you know what I mean? And Ochoa came out there. He made a real statement. He said that he's here for the flyweight division. He made a good call out. I think he called out Bruno Silva. And it was a great fight by him, great performance, and that's first pick of the night. I got correct, and let's move on to the second fight of the night. We have Basengar Susurkai versus Jordan Santos. I went with Basengar Susurkayev to go out there and secure a decision, but he did get a late submission in the 3rd round. This guy's buns, bro. I said in my picks and predictions video, I'll say here, this guy's buns. This guy's not UFC level. He fights with his chin up way in the air. He builds into fights, I guess, because in the first round he started off really slow. That's why the joke is going on that middleweight, you have your own Chito Vera now, because this guy built into the fight in the later rounds. You know, he was plodding forward. He was showboating, chin in the air. And Jordan Santos is a plod forward striker, man. It's not like he's a guy who's hard to keep track of. And he was low-key tagging up Basengar Susurkayev, like especially in the first. You know, it was a really close round. It could have gone either way. It was 19 on the side of Jordan Santos. It was 21 on the side of Basengar Susurkayev. But when it came to the second round, these boys were going back and forth at it, and Basengar, he was hurt there for a minute. You know, a lot of people, I feel like, are ignoring the fact that Basengar kind of got stumbled against the cage there. You know, he held his composure really well, but, you know, it came down to the 3rd. Both these guys were gassed, and he started piecing up Jordan Santos, started laying on him, and eventually took him down and found himself that submission in the 3rd round. And this guy's chin is ripe for the taking. If there's anything that we learned from Basengar Susurkayev in this fight, is that it reinforced my idea that this guy is going to get pieced up when he fights some real UFC level competition. You know, he's coming off that win against Jordan Santos, but before that it was against Eric Moicano, another one where he almost lost. And Eric Moicano, and I understand he's coming off a great win, he's ass. Like, let's keep it real for a minute here. Like, no disrespect to him, great fighter. He'd whoop my ass, but he's not a great UFC fighter. He's not meant for the UFC. And before that, Eric Nolan, the guy who's actually a 170er, came up to middleweight to fight him, and he almost chinned him as well in the 2nd round. And, you know, good win for Basengar Susurkayev, but Jordan Santos is not a high-level opponent. And Basengar Susurkayev, I'm scared that this guy's going to try to jump the gun and jump the queue and fight some ranked opposition, and I can see him getting chinned in the future. But, you know, good win by him, late round finish, and it set the tone for the night. But whatever, it's kind of a boring fight, I can't lie. But now let's move on to the next fight. Pat Sabatini versus William Gomes. I did go with Pat Sabatini, so we start off the night 3 for 3. Later on, we crumbled a little bit, but we'll get to that. You know, Pat Sabatini, this was a shitty fight, man. This was worse. This was the worst terror attack since 9/11. You know, Pat Sabatini, I said it once, I'll say it again, dude. Once this guy gets you to the ground, he's suffocating you. He's not suffocating in terms of like submission. I'm saying he's suffocating as in like he's going to wet blanket you. He really puts all his weight on you. He makes it extremely difficult to get up. And Gomes, you know, he defended so many takedowns. Like, if you look at these stats, Pat Sabatini attempted 20 takedowns and secured 3, but the 3 that he secured were enough, because once he got Gomes to the ground, once Gomes was tired of defending the takedowns, Pat Sabatini took him to the ground, threw down some ground and pound, not really, went for a couple sub attempts, I guess, not really either, to be honest with you. Didn't even count him with any sub attempts. I mean, he was trying to set up a head and arm at one point, but, you know, I don't know, dude. It was a pretty shitty fight. It was pretty boring, but I did pick Pat Sabatini to go out there and get himself a submission, but, you know, Respect to Gomes. Gomes is training with the BSD camp, so I wouldn't imagine that this guy's submission defense is ass, because it was actually really good. It was really impressive, and he tried to keep this fight standing. He really did. You got to give it to Gomes. It wasn't like Gomes went out there and got ragdolled. Like DDP kind of accepted positions against Khamzat, which we'll get to later, but he didn't accept positions and he really tried to work, but Pat Sabatini is suffocating, and he secures himself another win, and I think it's time for him to fight some actual ranked opposition. This guy's on a little bit of a win streak, coming off a win against Gomes, and before that, Jonathan Brito, and the only person that's beat him in recent times is Diego Lopez. So, great win by Pat Sabatini. Give him a shot in the rankings. I get that he's a little bit older, but he does deserve it. He is on a fat win streak. Now, let's move up the card. We have Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. This was the first pick I got wrong for the night. I leaned Marco Tulio because I thought that Roman Kopylov does not pull the trigger enough. I thought that Roman Kopylov is gun shy, and I felt like Roman Kopylov abandoned his wrestling, but it was surprising because Roman Kopylov was the one to actually initiate the grappling and did land the takedown. Round one. See, the numbers are on the side of Tulio, but the numbers are not telling the full story. I would say that Kopylov really landed the more devastating strikes, and I think that Tulio was a little bit weary in this fight. The Marco Tulio that fought CLD, though he got chinned by CLD, if he came out tonight, he could have won this decision, but I think he was really weary. I think he was scared of getting KO'd because, Kopylov really has some damaging kicks, dude. This guy rips to the body, switch head kick. This guy's ripping to the legs. This guy's introducing takedowns. He's so unpredictable, and he's so quick. The Roman Kopylov, one thing that he has incredible leg speed. Like, I've never seen a guy throw a switch kick in the UFC like I see Roman Kopylov throw a switch kick, and he was landing on Tulio all night, man. And he did a great job with setting up his head kicks, and he battered Tulio and won himself a UD decision. It was a great win by Kopylov. It was good to finally get another win for him, because at one point I did think Kopylov is a real talent, because, man, this guy's leg speed it's on a whole nother level. But granted, looking back, I think it was a bad picking Tulio, because look at Kopylov. Who's he lost to? Paulo Costa, who's coming off that great win against Azamat Murzakanov, and he didn't get finished in that fight. And he also took Gregory Robocop Rodriguez to a decision. He didn't get finished in that fight, and he's coming off a KO win. So, hindsight 2020, I don't think Kopylov's losses were too bad. I think this was really good for him in his career in terms of regaining his confidence. I think he's going to be able to pull the trigger a little bit more, and I look forward to him getting another fight. I do think he should fight one more time outside of the rankings, build up his confidence a little bit, and considering he did lose in the rankings to two decently ranked guys, I think he needs one more, and then we give him another shot at the rankings. But great win for the side of Roman Kopylov. Dude, a lot of people are saying CLD took Marco Tulio's soul, because, man, I'm telling you, it was not the Tulio of old. Anyways, now let's move on to the next one. We have Jared Gordon versus Jim Miller. Jim fucking Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care that I picked Jared Gordon to go out there and put on an unk performance, because Jim Miller put on a motherfucking unk performance, because, they were standing at range. He did get a submission in the first round. They were poking at each other, Jared Gordon was getting that leg chop just like I said he would. I said that Jared Gordon is very heavy on that lead leg, and Jim Miller does like to pepper at that lead leg. And at one point, he even landed a pretty mean shot on the chin of Jared Gordon, which sat him down for like a split second, but Jared Gordon was quick to stand up, so I don't think he even got counted as a knockdown. It was a really weird moment. But inevitably what happened was Jared Gordon went for a takedown and stuck his head in Jim Miller's guillotine. And Jim motherfucking Miller, he did not even hesitate to jump the guillotine. It wasn't even a fully pulled in guard guillotine. It was like a half guard arm in guillotine. And respect to Jared Gordon, he tried to fight it for a minute. He tried to change position. He tried to fight the hands, but it was in tight. It was in really tight. And Jim motherfucking Miller, at 42 years old, secured himself a flying guillotine choke submission win, and did secure himself $100K for the night. So it was a great win on the side of Jim Miller. I guess this motherfucker is going until UFC 400. And for those that don't know, Jim Miller's fought at UFC 100, 200, and 300. So another great win for the Unk himself. Now, let's move on to the next fight of the night. We have Mateusz Rebecki versus Grant Dawson. Okay, I went with Mateusz Rebecki as a notable underdog pick, and I do not regret it whatsoever. This was a fire fight, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't lie to you, Grant Dawson looked great. Because I said that Grant Dawson in my breakdown is very stiff on the feet. He's very weary. He doesn't respond to high pressure well. And in this fight, it seemed like he was coming out to make a statement, because in the first round, these guys were going toe to toe. Rebecca throws very heavy, but instead of Grant Dawson being so dependent on his wrestling game, and even though Rebecca shucked off some of the takedowns in the first round, Grant Dawson was ripping body kicks. Grant Dawson was ripping jabs. He was using his range really well, because Rebecca is a shorter guy for his weight division. He's just a stocky, thick dude. And Grant Dawson knew that, so he didn't really heavily rely on his wrestling. Rip to the body. He was ripping the teeps. He was ripping the leg kicks, and he was peppering that jab. The main weapon of the night was that jab. And even in the first round, he landed, I think it was a mean knee, or it might have been an elbow to the eye socket area of Mateusz Rebecca, and cut him up. So I would give the first round to Grant Dawson, but we go off to the second, and man, Rebecca almost finished him in the second, but it was so poor IQ. Rebecca catches him with a mean hook to the jaw, sits down Grant Dawson, almost finishes him, but once Grant Dawson engaged in the grappling game on the ground and started trying to scramble and force scrambles, Rebecca abandoned trying to get the finish with striking and tried to get positional dominance to go back to the striking to get the finish. But Grant Dawson, man, he is a worm on the ground. You cannot hold this guy down. It gave him ample time to recover, but Mateusz Rebecca secured the second. But third round begins. Grant Dawson immediately shoots a takedown finally, and gets him down to the ground. Rebecca's fighting those hands the entire fight, but with 18 seconds to go, Grant Dawson gets the rear naked choke tight, very tight in, and unfortunately, my boy Rebecca had to tap. I still don't regret the pick, because it was a firefight. I really thought Rebecca was going to get out of there in the second round, but Grant Dawson, man, he really shut me up. I got to give respect where respect's due. I talk a lot of shit, but he really shut me up, because he showed a lot of heart, a lot of dog, and he really upped his striking game in that fight, and he looked great. So great win on the side of Grant Dawson. Now, this is a fight I want to talk about. Let's move on to Yaroslav Amosov against Yoel Alvarez. I leaned Yoel Alvarez because I thought that his jiu-jitsu game would be enough to push Amosov off and land that lead hook that he was trying to find in the first and second round. But Amosov came out there and shut that shit down, boy. 30-1. For those who don't know, I've said in my picks and predictions video, I'll say it again. This guy was legit in Bellator. 29-1. He only got chinned once, and I want to say it was a fluke chin, but he got caught, and then he went to serve in Ukraine. There's even this video of him going underground to his old childhood home through a tunnel to secure his Bellator belt, and then he came to the UFC, and then came off with a submission win, and then came into this Yoel Alvarez fight, and man, he looked quick, he looked fast, he looked explosive, and in round one, he got Yoel Alvarez to the ground. Yoel Alvarez was cutting those angles like I thought. He was trying to lead that lead hand. He was trying to land that lead hand. He was trying to land that jab and maintain range, but Yaroslav Amosov was not fucking around. He got him down to the ground. Alvarez was able to fight the hands for the first round and survive. At one point, I even thought that Yaroslav Amosov was under the chin, but Yoel Alvarez thugged it out, fought the hands, avoid the rear naked choke. We go off into the second round, and Yoel, man, he comes out hot. He sends landing on Yaroslav Amosov. He starts pulling that trigger, because he was a little bit gun shy in the first, but I think after he thought, I'm not going to get subbed by this guy, I'm going to pull the trigger. He did so. He landed like a 6-piece combo, but Yaroslav Amosov, high guard against the cage, ate that shit, grabbed him, went for a judoka throw, and picked this guy up with one hand, slammed him into the ground. But whilst he's slamming him into the ground, he lands into that arm triangle and subs Yoel Alvarez in the second round. And dude, when I say he slammed him into the ground, this motherfucker picked him up, Hulk smash into the ground, busts out in a breakdowns, and he really made a statement, man. Yoel Alvarez, I get that the guy's unranked, but this is not a normal unranked contender. This is a real threat in the side of Yoel Alvarez, and the fact that Yaroslav Amosov, I gotta say it how it is, made him look like easy work. This guy's, I've got some high hopes for him in the future. I can see some really good matchups for him, and I think he'll do pretty well, but man, it's just unfortunate he's in the welterweight division. He used to be a middleweight, a division I think he should go back to, because I think it's a little bit, easier to break into the rankings, because the welterweight division, man, it's just unfortunate because it's so stacked. And regardless, fuck all that, dude. Yaroslav Amosov secured himself a $100K, and great win over Yoel Alvarez, man. Great win. Now, let's move on to the next fight. We have Ozzy Diaz versus Atiba Gutierrez. I went with Atiba Gutierrez to secure himself a knockout and a knockout in the first round. He did secure himself a knockout, but it was in the second round. There's not much to say about this fight. Ozzy Diaz really didn't do much in the first round. I feel like the only reason he didn't get knocked down the first was he had a really high, tight guard. He was moving around the cage. He was avoiding the big shots. He even clinched up with Atiba against the cage and tried to get him down. But Atiba is a fucking gorilla, man. Look at this guy. This guy is too strong against the cage. If we're going into a 50-50, he's the stronger man. And pushed off Ozzy Diaz. Didn't really land much in the first. We go off to the second, and it's looking like the same. Ozzy Diaz high and tight guard, circling around the cage. And then Atiba lands a mean left hook. And it wasn't even like a fully landed. He just clipped him on the chin and sat Ozzy Diaz down. It buckled his knees. And the follow-up shots were devastating. He landed only 2 follow-up shots. But, man, the referee didn't even need the follow-up shots because, man, he got his knees buckled. And he was out. And Atiba Gutierrez secured himself a win in the second round. And he called out Israel Adesanya. RIP Israel Adesanya. If he gets that fight, man, he's really going to end off Israel Adesanya's career. And everyone, I think, in the middleweight division is just eyeing Israel Adesanya as an easy way to break into the rankings. And if Mini Nagano goes out there and fights Israel Adesanya, RIP Israel Adesanya. Whoever's GOAT that is, bro, free you, my boy, because that's a deadly call out. It was a respectful call out, you know, and he said that he was looking up to him and it's his idol and, you know, it's his dream fight. But fuck, man. The way that Adesanya fights and the fact that he has no grappling to even break down Atiba Gutierrez, all Atiba needs is one. Especially with Adesanya's chin gone, I think Atiba would knock him out fucking cold. And I think it was a great call out by him, and I'm excited. I hope they give him that fight because I finally want to see this guy fight a decent guy, and it's Israel Adesanya, you know, arguably the middleweight GOAT. Arguably. We'll get to that, baby. And it was great. I think it was a great call out. It was really personable. I didn't really like the performance, but it wasn't really his fault. You know, how are you supposed to knock out a guy who's not engaging and who's circling around the cage? You know, granted that. And I look forward to this guy's future, dude. He's only 25. What the fuck, man? So this guy's got a bright future in this division, to be honest with you. He's got a lot of time to develop. Now let's move on to the next fight night. We have King Green versus Jeremy Stephens. See, I did pick King Green to go out there and win, but I said that Jeremy Stephens, I picked him in my picks and predictions because I said that he can be the one. I was like, doesn't this smell like a Jeremy Stephens KO to you? You know, Bobby Green minus 450 on a win streak, beating these young guys, and then this Unk that hasn't fought in forever comes out and beats him. But that's not what happened, dude. King Green was all over Jeremy Stephens in this fight. He even busted up his nose in the first round, dude. King Green was peppering that jab, talking his shit, chopping at that leg, and dropped Jeremy Stephens. And when he dropped him, bro, we saw a fucking submission out of King Green. I could not believe that Bobby Green pulled off a sub, and it was a great win. And he called Dana White out and said, I want my performance bonus. You guys have been snubbing me for my bonus. And Dana White responded with, listen, kid, listen, I'm not going to give you $100,000, but I'm going to give you custom shorts. What a fucking disrespect, man. I'm so sick and tired of Dana White, dude. Stingy Dana White. They didn't even give him his $100K. They're like, listen, kid, fuck your $100K. Here's some custom shorts. But whatever. Great win on the side of King Green. Like, seriously, dude. Like, he showed all aspects of MMA. And I hate to say it, and it's crazy to say, but King Green's in his prime at 38 years old somehow. And he really showed the mixing of the martial arts. A great win by him. Oh, my God. Now we go on to, I think it's called the featured fight of the night. We have Joaquin Buckley versus Sean Brady. I had Joaquin Buckley as my underdog lock of the week. But you know what's even crazy? And I got to get a Twitter up and running, because let me know down below what you think if I should get a Twitter up and running, because I cashed my bet out. Because listen, before I even break down this fight, I had Joaquin Buckley. I bet on him 2 weeks prior. I bet on him and Carlos Prates in a parlay, and you can see it right here. And I was going to ride the parlay out, but it was so odd. Earlier in the day at around 11 a.m. Pacific, Joaquin Buckley flipped from a plus 140 to a minus 240 in the span of an hour, and it was so suspicious. I thought to myself, I was like, is Sean Brady injured? Is there insider information? Is it potentially rigged? Because every single time that we've seen such crazy odd shifts, it's always something is going on behind the scenes. And that caused me to cash my bet out. And thank God that I did, because Sean Brady came out there and put a grappling clinic on Joaquin Buckley. I thought that Joaquin Buckley is a strong fucker. I thought that Joaquin Buckley had been working on his grappling since that Kamaru Usman loss. I thought that Sean Brady has no chin, which he still doesn't. I'm going to fucking stand by that. And I thought that Joaquin Buckley lost to Kamaru Usman. So what the fuck does that mean? It's Kamaru Usman, and it didn't matter in this fight. And I think he made a lot of low IQ decisions. You know, in the first round, he's winging that left hook. You know, he does that jump in left hook. But he throws a body kick. Gets it caught, gets taken to the ground. Sean Brady wins the second, and wins the first. And we go into the second, you think, hey man, let's put together our boxing and fuck the kicks, especially when we're fighting this crazy grappler on the side of Sean Brady. What does Joaquin do immediately? Throws a switch kick, gets his leg caught, goes to the ground immediately. And even the third, man, he tries to fucking wing Sean Brady with that step-in lead hook, but Sean Brady, once again, catches he overextends on that lead hook, gets a double under, slams him to the ground, secures himself a 30-25 unanimous decision victory. They gave him 2 10-8 in the first round of 10-9, and great win on the side of Sean Brady. He talked a lot of shit on his mic. He's talking to shit like to people like fucking me, being like, what now? What now? What fucking now? And fair enough to Sean Brady, man. I couldn't believe this guy flipped to a plus 180 with nothing actually going on behind the scenes. I think some fucking moron like me was thinking that Joaquin Buckley's going to go out there and chin Buckley. So they put a fuck ton of money on him because it was so odd with the odds changes. And I don't know where Joaquin goes from here. I really don't, bro. I get that Joaquin has knocked out a bunch of people. I get that he's only lost by UD to the two greatest grapplers in the welterweight division other than Islam. But man, dude, you're showing some massive holes in your game, and I wouldn't be surprised if guys who are not even wrestlers start exploiting your weakness in the grappling department, One thing Joaquin has going for him is his cardio and his power, but when he wings shots and he gets desperate to get the knockout shot because he's so behind, people exploit that. This is mixed martial arts. We're here for a 15-minute fight, And Sean Brady fought a smart fight. Sean Brady tried to sub Joaquin once, I think, in the second round. But other than that, he landed some mean ground and pound. There's a few moments in this fight, I got to be honest with you guys, I can't bullshit, that I thought that Sean Brady was going to get the TKO win, because even though they weren't crazy devastating shots on Joaquin just couldn't move, man. Sean Brady was in guard. Was in mount, and I think fucking Dana White, man, they didn't even upload the striking numbers, but he landed maybe like 45 consecutive shots without Joaquin even changing to position. I guess Joaquin was trying to fight the hands, but he literally did not change position. I wouldn't be surprised if any other ref called it, just because of Joaquin Buckley's inability to move, and great win for Sean Brady. I don't know where he goes from here. I think you should, if Bilal beats the Bonfim brother, I think that maybe we run it back. Maybe we do a Bilal and Sean Brady rematch. I think that would be a really, really good rematch, considering that Sean Brady seems like he's made some improvements, I guess. I don't know. And he's Bilal Muhammad's only finish ever. So great win, though. Great win on the side of Sean Brady. I fucking ate the shit, bro. I ate his shit. Sean Brady, fair enough. I was one of those shit talkers, and you put on a great, great performance. 30-25, dominance, pure dominance. Now we move on to Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I wasn't very confident in this fight. I did make the call that this fight was going to go to decision. I said I don't know who I'm going to pick in this fight. I think I leaned Waldo because I said that he could introduce the grappling, which he fucking didn't, like a retard. But I did say that confidently this fight was going to go to the decision. And a lot of people, man, I'm so sick and tired of these fucking casuals, man, that don't watch the fucking sport. Open your fucking eyes. Just open your fucking eyes. Even if people were blasting robbery in the comments, I think it's because people bet on Waldo, because this was not a robbery. I had it 2-1 clear to Volkov, based on activity alone. Round one, Waldo had big moments, but it was because people were going ooh and ah. Realistically, he landed maybe 1 or 2 left hooks, but Volkov was chopping at that lead leg, and especially since Waldo Cortez Acosta is a boxer and puts a lot of weight on that lead leg, it was very effective. And Costa didn't check a single fucking leg kick. Didn't even attempt to check it. He would fucking try to wing out of it and get hit over and over again. And obviously his stance was compromised because he was just plodding around like a fat chubster. And Volkov was landing knees. Volkov was landing teeps. Volkov was just chewing him up from range. I wouldn't say he was taking a lot of risks, because Costa is a heavy-handed guy. It kind of reminds me of a Derek Lewis-esque build in this matchup, because Volkov fought Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis, same thing happened to him. He was getting batted up from range, except he did land that right hand inevitably, but Cortez was not able to land that right hand. And third round, what the fuck? Dude, look at these numbers. $1 billion company, by the way. Third round, these are not the numbers. They gave 104 to the side of Volkov and 9 to the side of Waldo for total strikes. What the fuck? But I'm just going to fucking ignore the statistics. But other than the statistics, bro, I would say that Waldo Cortez Acosta, he was still getting peppered up from range. He was not having a crazy round, but, he was actually finally pushing Volkov on his back foot. He was giving him moments of risk and moments where he stunned Volkov and landed an overhand right, and he was being really active. competitive, and the showboating does help. A lot of people hate to admit it, but the showboating does help for the judges, and he looked good in the final 30 seconds as well. He pushed his foot on the gas and looked good in the final 30 seconds. But the fact of the matter is, dude, you did nothing for the first two. And I think that a lot of people could make an argument. They're trying to make arguments for Waldo in the first, but there's making arguments just purely based off the biased commentary, number one, which we'll fucking talk about later. And number two, because, he's doing his showboating, his aura farming, and the oohs and ahs. But inevitably, this is a fucking mixed martial arts match, guys. Like, what are you watching? You're watching one guy get his leg broken, and you're watching him also do nothing for an entire round. So how are you going to give him the round? Based on activity alone, Volkov won that. And Volkov said, I'm still a professional. I'm still one of the best. He's saying that Gane robbed me. He should not be. I do like this though. He said Gane robbed me. He should not be getting title shot right now. It should be me. And that it should not be Pereira. Pereira's not even a heavyweight. And he talked his shit, but the people were booing so much that you couldn't really hear him talk his shit. But he is right. I can't disagree with him. But I think he gets chinned by everybody else, to be honest with you. I think Aspinall chins him. I think he already did chin him. I think Gane chins him. No, he doesn't. What am I talking about? They already fought and it was a robbery. Fuck it, whatever. Maybe with the adjustments, because Volkov's been looking slower in his last couple fights, to be honest with you. After that fight against Sergey, he looked great in that fight against Sergey, but maybe it was just because he trained with him so much. But he's been slowing down. I think fucking Pereira Chinsman won, though. Anyways, great win for Volkov. Shitty performance on the side of Costa. I get it's hard to get past the range, but introduce the grappling, man. Come on. Especially 6'7". You have a shorter base, bro. You can get him down. But he never tried to do that. He just tried to wing jabs and overhands, and it just didn't work. Great win for Volkov. Now let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. Once again, man, fucking feed shit into my mouth because I went with Tatsuro Taira in this fight. But it was such a good fight, man. This is your average flyweight fight, bro. This was a fucking banger from start to finish. And Taira is too tough for his own good. I could not believe this fucking guy survived the fourth round. I could not believe this guy was not out. And this guy just didn't have the quit in him, bro. This guy got almost finished. This guy almost got subbed, and he just wouldn't quit on himself. And he got finished in the fifth round by TKO stoppage. It was low-key an early stoppage. I don't give a fuck. It was an early stoppage. He still was about it, but it's just one of those cases where Taira was too tough for his own good. Round one begins how I thought it was going to begin. Taira was really doing well at managing his range. He's throwing jabs. He's throwing teeps. He's not doing winging boxing combos, pushing the boxing range so Joshua Van can take over. He's fighting a smart fight. He introduces takedowns, takes down Joshua Van for the whole round. It was a great round. Now we go off into round two. Taira starts off with a takedown, takes down Joshua Van. Joshua Van works his way back up. Taira starts doing well from range, but Joshua Van cracks him with a big one. And Joshua Van, what he does together is once he lands one and he could tell you're sheltering up and not throwing back, he doesn't hesitate. He releases multiple punch combinations. He digs to that body. He makes you drop your guard. Taira lands another takedown, but immediately Joshua Van comes back up. And at the end of the round, boom! He drops Taira to the ground, almost finishes him, but we go off into the third. And the third, bro, oh my God. Joshua Van just starts pouring it on Taira. Taira had zero head movement in the later rounds, 3, 4, and 5. Taira just abandoned his head movement. I think it was just too much for him. He was getting flustered. He was overreaching with that jab. And what Joshua Van was doing so great was he was slipping that jab and landing that uppercut. And as soon as he landed that uppercut and Taira was trying to get range, he would chop at that leg. And as soon as Taira would then shelter back up, he would go with the cross, and he was just battering him. When Taira would try to, Taira was too focused on the range, and he was so focused on the range that Joshua Van started getting the timing down. And Joshua Van builds into fights, man. He kind of reminds me of a Peter Yan-esque in the sense of he gets his reads in the earlier rounds. Maybe he looks a little bit slower, but once he gets the gears rolling, they do not stop grinding. And Joshua Van, man, he poured it on Taira, and we go off to the fourth round. He fucking starts beating the shit out of Tatsuro Taira. Taira's face is bloodied up. Look at him right here. Taira's face is bloodied up. Taira's face is fucked up. Taira looks gassed, exhausted. He looks like he has a hematoma above his left eye. Both his eyes are swollen shut. He gets dropped. He almost gets finished. But Joshua Van hops on his back and almost slips in a rear naked choke twice. He was this close to submitting the submission expert. I was sitting there and I was like, this is fucking peak. This is so peak. But then Tyra gets out of the rear naked choke. Fight gets back standing. He starts landing that jab. He did not give up on himself. He takes Joshua Van back down, survives the 4th round. We go into the 5th. And I would have scored it. No, it was 3-1 going into the 5th. In my mind, in the live, I thought it was maybe 2-2. But with that drop, you have to edge the second round to Joshua Van. You know, in the second round, Tyra was doing really good, and I thought he was winning, but that drop, I think, secured it for Van. So you could say it was 2-2 or 3-1 heading into the 5th, and once we head into the 5th, man, Tyra is bloody. Tyra can't see. Tyra is landing that jab. Tyra attempts 3 takedowns, but they were slaw because he was just out of it, but he wouldn't give up on himself. And Joshua Van, man, his corner made a great call. They yelled at him, go to the body, you'll finish him. Rip, dude. One thing I like about Van too is like when you clinch, he just goes bah, 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 6 shots to your body, and that's exactly what he did to Tyra. Tyra got hurt. You saw him get hurt. He dropped his lead hand. Boom! Joshua Van cracks him. Boom! He drops him with a jab, and once he drops him with a jab, he hits him one more time on the ground. But you know he's still in it. But Tyra looking at the ground. Referee decides it's time to step in. This guy's bloody. This guy's battered. He's too tough for his own good, and he stopped it, bro. Joshua Van, Chief motherfucking Keef, baby. And then at the post, after his fight, you know, they hopped him on the mic and they said if you want to fight Pantoja. And it was really, he made a weird statement. And I think like a lot of people don't talk about it. He's like, yeah, Pantoja, man, we could run it back. And even Pantoja looked at the microphone. He was like, run it back. He looked at the camera and said, run it back. What do you mean? They never even ran it the first time around. It was an injury. And I am happy, though, that the paper champ allegations for Joshua Van are finally done. You know, I think a lot of people were shitting on him, but it's not his fault for the Pantoja. I think the main thing people were shitting on him for was the fact that he was celebrating like he did something for the Pantoja fight. But you know, I'm excited for that matchup, and I can actually see Joshua Van chinning Pantoja now, which is crazy. It's crazy to me. But great performance on the side of Joshua Van. But Tyra really earned my respect. Tyra is a tough motherfucker. He will come back. He will come back. I believe in this boy. And he's young. Both these guys are so young, bro. Both these guys are Gen Z, 24 and 27. That's crazy. Both of them were born in the 2000s, man. Crazy, bro. We really are stepping into a new age of MMA, and I love to see it. I really do. Great win for Joshua Van. Now let's move on to the main event of the evening. Life is so fucking good. Sean Tarzan Strickland, in true Sean Tarzan Strickland, jabs and teeps his way to a split decision victory. Get out of here. My goodness. Listen, in my picks and predictions video, I picked Khamzat Chimaev because I didn't want to pick Strickland because I didn't want to give you guys a loser. But I was making my argument for majority of it that Strickland's going to win. And even look right here. I bet on Strickland to win. Let me tell you why he won. But before I break it down, I fucking hate this caucus MMA fans, bro. These guys are all Arab. And for some reason, because these guys are Muslims, they associate with them. They all are screaming robbery. They're all are screaming bad weight cut. All of them are screaming all this nonsense and bullshit, making up excuses or saying he was robbed or saying it was scripted and American judges and so forth. And I'm so sick and tired of it, man. I'm so sick and tired of these guys talking about their fighters like that, dude. It's so fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Especially with the weight cut thing, because, dude, you are choosing to fight at 185. You are signing a contract to fight at 185. You're a champion at 185. You know 12 weeks in advance you're going to make 185. Weight cutting is a part of the game. You have a terrible fucking weight cut. That's on you. That's not an excuse to lose. It's not like having a sickness or something that's out of your control. Having a bad weight cut is on you. And I think that Khamzat Chimaev wasn't even the weight cut that he lost about. It wasn't people are like, oh, he didn't look like himself. He looked gassed out. No, I'll explain it to you really quickly. You know, myself, I train jiu-jitsu. I wrestle as well as I train Muay Thai. And let me tell you what the key difference was. It was not even that Sean Strickland was such a great wrestler. It's that Khamzat is notoriously have a bad gas tank. But why did he able to consistently shoot takedowns and ride out 25 minutes against DDP? I'll explain it to you. When DDP got when he got taken down and he knew he couldn't work his way back up, he tucked in and got basically accepted position and went into crucifix. And in those moments, Khamzat Chimaev was getting ample time to recover because Khamzat Chimaev's chain wrestling style is explosivity. You see, a guy like Islam Makhachev, a guy like Khabib, he likes to tie you up and take you to the ground, which is expending less energy. But Khamzat explodes and takes you down. But Sean Strickland was fighting him every step of the way, every time he exploded. And because he was so confident he wasn't going to get subbed, for Khamzat Chimaev to try to maintain position, he was expending so much energy. I feel like Sean Strickland, even in the first round, was not throwing punches. He was expecting the takedown. He was waiting for the takedown. He accepted the takedown, but he fought him the entirety of the first round, which took a lot out of Khamzat Chimaev. Second round begins. Khamzat Chimaev immediately shoots another takedown, but Sean Strickland stuffs the takedown, and that took a lot of energy out of Khamzat Chimaev. I really think it was an adrenaline dump, because once Sean Strickland fully sprawled, Khamzat Chimaev just rolled onto his back and accepted guard, not thinking that Sean Strickland would go into his guard, but Sean Strickland did, which I loved. This was another thing which I think put a lot of pressure on Khamzat Chimaev's cardio. Sean Strickland went to his guard. Listen, when you have a grown man putting all his weight on you, punching you in the face, that takes a lot more energy than being on a grown man. So I think a lot of people are really undervaluing how much energy it takes when someone's on top of you, bro. And I think that's why Khamzat Chimaev was so gassed out and couldn't go for a lot of takedowns in the later rounds, is because he expends so much energy when he's going for the takedowns that he was scared that if he gasses out, Strickland's going to knock him out. So he decides to stand and bang with him. And we go off into the third. Strickland in the second pieces up Chimaev. He's in his guard for 3 minutes, and he secures himself the second. Now we go off to the third, and in the third, Khamzat Chimaev surprisingly did not attempt a single motherfucking takedown. I think it was so gassed, because here's another thing. Cardio reserves for striking and cardio reserves for grappling are two different things. And I think there was too much citric acid in his muscles for him to go into another takedown. He was scared that if he missed another takedown, he would be so gassed he'll get finished. And so he decided to stand and bang with Strickland. But Khamzat Chimaev is really simple on the feet, bro. He's swaying side to side like this. He's not even like cutting or weaving or bobbing. He's just swaying side to side like this, throwing a jab every now and then, and he was just slamming overhand rights over and over and over again. But you know what Sean Strickland did? He was on his back foot the whole time, but he was peppering that jab. He landed that jab a million times over, man. Look at the face of Chimaev. Just look at his face, bro. He was landing that jab money over and over again. And you know that Khamzat Chimaev was on his way to losing when the commentary started talking about advancing percentage. It doesn't matter if you're on your lead leg and you're the one pushing him against the cage. If the guy's landing on you and he's busting you up, and even in the third round, he wobbled Chimaev. A lot of people are not talking about it because Chimaev really kept his composure. But if you look at it in slow motion, his legs buckled and he tried to move his side to side to show that he's still in the game, which he was able to survive. Now we go off to round 4. In round 4, Khamzat Chimaev broke Sean Strickland's nose. He broke Sean Strickland's nose. He took him down, but Strickland worked his way back up. But he put on a really good fourth round. He was landing that overhand right. I think Sean Strickland was really getting tired himself. Both these guys were gassed in this fight. Even though they were throwing consistently back and forth, it was pretty evident that the earlier rounds took a lot out of both of them. And I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about that. They're like, oh, Chimaev didn't look like himself. But even Sean, he's a guy who's extremely high output. And even though he was a high output in this fight, he would have been way more high output in this fight if he wasn't so exhausted. He's really maintaining a great pace. But Sean, he got his nose busted up in the fourth. He also got taken down. So you have to give the fourth to Chimaev. So in my books, it's 1 and 4 Chimaev, 2 and 3 Strickland. We go off into the fifth, and I think the fifth was the clearest of all. To be honest with you, Chimaev took down Strickland 6 times, it says here, which is bullshit in my personal opinion. 6 out of 7 times. I'm going to fucking kill myself for doing that. But listen, Strickland kept getting up, and Strickland would just not stop landing. He was landing at Chimaev over and over and over and over and over again. Those jabs, those crosses, those teeps. And he was doing such a great job. But you know why I think Sean Strickland was actually tired and couldn't get a finish, and why he looked so poorly in the fourth round is Khamzat did one thing which I forgot to mention. Khamzat was digging to the body with this mean right hand to the body. He would duck down and throw this right hand to the body. And I really think that was catching Sean Strickland off guard, because he was expecting a takedown. And since he's anticipating takedown, he's not engaging his core. He was getting exhausted and winded. But man, he was landing on Chimaev over and over and over and over again. And it's impossible not to give Sean Strickland the fifth round, because it's based off damage. These guys are online, these daggy fucks, these fucking guys that are riding with the caucus. They have nobody from their own country, so they fucking cling on to these guys for dear life. They kept saying that advancing and takedowns, but the takedowns, when you don't do anything with it and the guy immediately gets it back up, you have to value damage above all else. And even though you're like, oh, Sean Strickland's nose was broken though, but Khamzat, look at his face. Look, I'm going to point it right here again. Look at his face. Come on. And they gave him the fifth, and it came down to a split decision, and America's back, baby! Sean Strickland won it, but listen, Even though he won it, man, Khamzat Chimaev, he did do a great deal of sportsmanship. He wrapped the belt around Sean Strickland. They hugged, and even Strickland admitted a little bit he was selling the fight and doesn't really hate Chimaev, even though Chimaev's Kadyrov's dog, if you catch my drift. And, they gave each other their respect. Khamzat Chimaev didn't make any excuses, which I'm surprised about. I thought he would run immediately to Instagram and be like, hey, I had norovirus or some shit. But he then goes up to Dana White. This is the last thing I want to mention. He goes up to Dana White, Khamzat Chimaev does, and goes, I want to move up to 205. Dude, this guy used to work at 170. Now he fights at 185, which he missed weight for. He missed weight for 185, but they cheated it. But now he wants to go up to 205. And even Dana said he thinks it's the money and the fame that got to his head, that he doesn't put in the work to make the weight, which is a really stupid, retarded, classic Dana White take. But I think he's way too small for light heavyweight. But then he also posted on his Twitter, see you soon, at Sean Strickland. So we might see the rematch. A lot of people here are like, no rematch, blah, blah, blah. I think if Khamzat Chimaev does decide to stay in his weight division, you have to run back another rematch. This was a razor-thin, close fight. But Chimaev never even got a motherfucking title defense, boy. I'm so happy he lost, bro. All these guys can shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter, no matter how much excuses and copium they throw out there. He lost. 15-1. What happened to the wolf? The wolf was the sheep today, and he got hunted by Sean Tarzan Strickland. And America is back. I'm not even American. I don't even give a fuck. I don't even like Sean Strickland. But I just hate these fucking caucus guys. And it's mainly because of their fan base, bro. And I hate how they act humble. Whatever. I'm just fucking ranting at this point. But whatever. Sean Strickland put on a beautiful performance. This was a generational card. This was an upset of a century. How good is Sean Strickland? Prime Chimaev and prime Israel Adesanya? Like, oh my God. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland recapped. Lazy analysis, serious results. I'll catch you in the next one.